Welcome back. So in this episode, I want to talk a little bit about wiring. All of us are probably wiring our trailers. They're 30, 40 years old. They need to be rewired. A lot of the connections were just done with crimp butt connectors or morettes. They weren't properly wired really in the beginning. And now that we're adding different things to them, we're adding more accessories. We need to make sure our wiring's good. So let's talk a little bit about wiring in this episode. Just before we get started though, just a little bit of a disclaimer. Do your own research. I'm going to give you some ideas of what I've done based on my own research, but I recommend you looking up the information yourself and then deciding how you want to proceed with your own wiring. Okay, so let's first talk about the type of wire that we're going to use. Just the type of wire. So sometimes we may think, well, we could use a wire something like this. Now this is, I don't know if you can see that there. It's a solid core wire, just solid. It's a thermostat wire actually. Now this might be the right size gauge, but it's solid. And that's no good for our trailer, solid wire. Rather, we want flexible wire. If you look at all automotive wire, trailer wires, they're always multi-stranded. So they got lots of different strands. It flexes better, doesn't break, and our trailers are moving around a lot. So this is the wire I got for my trailer. It's a roll of wire just off of Amazon. It's actually speaker wire. Because I wanted the sheathing over top of the wire, and this is actually 16 gauge, and again you can see it's multi-strand wire, and so that'll work well. Now 16 gauge, you might think, well, that's kind of small, right? Like our wires in our trailer are actually 14 gauge, but if you think about it, back in the day when our trailers were wired, they had incandescent bulbs, a lot of high load things. But now we're using LED lights. Like this is the light that I'm going to be installing. So it's an LED light, and it draws a quarter of an amp. A quarter of an amp. So if you go with 14 gauge wire, that's the old wire that's in our trailer, 14 gauge wire, that can handle about 15 amps continuous on it. But now we're running 4 lights at a quarter amp. That's only 1 amp for all my lights running at the same time. This fan that I'm installing, right? If we look down here, it consumes 1.3 amp. That's the French. There we go, 1.3 amp, 16 watts. So you could have this and the lights, and you're still 2.3 amps, that's it. The pump that I'm installing, here's the pump that I'm installing. You can see the max amps, 4 amps. So for myself, I'm going to put this pump on a separate circuit. And then I'm going to install all my lights. So I've got these 4 interior lights, and I've got 1 exterior light, and my fan. I'm going to put that all on the same circuit. And then I'm going to have a separate circuit for my furnace, my little furnace fan. And then a separate circuit for my fridge, if I want to run my fridge off at 12 volts. Now the fridge, it would be higher amps, so you'd probably want to run that off of a bigger gauge wire. So that's just a little explanation of how I'm going to be doing my wiring, and something to keep in mind when we're wiring. Okay, I just wanted to show you originally where the battery was. Now this is in a Surfside trailer, but be different in any, all the different trailers. They got different areas they want to put it, but often they were located inside the trailer. So this one was located inside, right in this area here. It was wired in there, and I didn't like that because a couple things. One, Batteries, they off gas, and actually the gas is explosive. So when you want it inside, it's got to be well ventilated. But I just like to have the battery outside. So I'll show you where I mounted mine. So I got this little tray here from Amazon, little battery tray, and then the battery box also from Amazon. And what I did is I just took the wire that was coming here. This is the original, the 7-pin wire that goes to our vehicles. And I spliced it right here. So right in here I spliced it. And I took, this is the vehicle power. So it's going to charge the battery. And then this is the ground. It's the ground to the trailer and also ground to the vehicle. And this is the trailer power. So this is a 30 amp fused power wire, and that's a 10 gauge wire that's running through that down, and then that 10 gauge actually ran all the way back and inside the trailer. So once I got that 10 gauge inside the trailer, I ran it up through my cabinets. There you can see the 10 gauge wire coming up through, and I installed one of these switch panels. You can just buy it off of Amazon. It's got a little voltage readout, and then there's USB connectors, and then a cigarette connector. But anyways, I wanted the switches was the big reason. So it's got all the different switches here, lights, water pressure, accessories, blah, blah, blah. So, and then each one of them, it's actually really good because they come with fuse adapters. So you can actually fuse it. So this one I've got fused to 5 amps. This one is fused 10 amps. And so I could fuse them for the size of the wire going out that's leaving. And this is how I was running my lights before, because my lights they're 24 volt LEDs. So it's very complicated. So I'm pulling all this out, and I'm just going to have my 12 volt LEDs, and that'll fix that up. So I just wanted to show you a little bit how, and then that just mounts up in there. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to run new wiring for my lights. So I'm going to run it out, down below, and then all along the floor, and then I'm going to come out at my lights. So my one above my stove, I'm going to wire my fan, my light over the table, and then there's going to be a light right here at the entranceway, and then there's going to be also a light outside here. Right now I don't have it, but I'm going to mount a light right out there. And the light's going to have a switch on it, plus I want to be able to switch it from inside. So that's how we're going to do this. So I just wanted to show you the connectors that I'm using here. I know I said I was going to solder and then I'd shrink tube them, but I ran out of shrink tube. So this is the second best thing. So these connectors, they're called weather tight butt connectors. And what they do is they're just crimp, like normal crimp connectors, but then you can heat up the insulation around it, and then it'll shrink around the wire. So that's how I'm going to do all my connections, and then I'll wrap it with my electrical tape and then secure it. Okay, that's it now. All our wiring's done. Finished it up today. So that switch there is for the lights, gives you the power on for the lights, and then each light has its own switch on it. Gives you the voltage readout on that display, and put the exterior light on. So now all the lights, you can see all the lights working there, and the exterior light. Well, that's it for the electrical. It's all done now. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please give me a thumbs up. Also, subscribe for new videos. I'm going to try and post a new video very regularly. Next week we're heading out camping to backcountry in northern Ontario. So subscribe and follow along as I post the the videos to come. Thank you for watching.